Hard times continue for Ubisoft, as the beleaguered studio, having already cut a fair bit of extraneous fat, is now moving on to other parts of their studios as well. They announced 185 layoffs just now, which will affect, mainly, one of the studios behind Star Wars Outlaws. That, of course, was one of those major flops Ubisoft had, which they didn't expect. They figured that, okay, well, Star Wars, that brand sells in and of itself, right? It's goddamn Star Wars, for hecking's sake. It's one of the biggest entertainment entities out there. Well, it was, until Disney got a hold of it, and many, many years of violent abuse later. And it's not quite worth what it once was now, is it? So they figured that would be, a slam dunk, and additionally, they were going to make it a bit of an open-world, rogue-style survival thing, where you get to play the Han Solo type adventurer. People had been asking for that sort of game for a very long time. It was sure to be popular. 5 years ago, maybe. Today, not so much, as it turns out. Yeah, it was not a good bet. It was not a good bet by any stretch of the imagination, and Ubisoft right now needs to trim down even harder for a really, really harsh winter upcoming, as Assassin's Creed Shadows 2, it's not doing well either. Assassin's Creed Shadows devs want you to know that Yasuke isn't an assassin, and that means he's not getting any of those classic assassin abilities. That is true. All of the footage I've seen from the game so far has been Yasuke being a big, black, violent samurai going around killing a lot of Japanese people. It's, it's not good optics, honestly. It is really not good optics in this day and age, and that's even ignoring the various technical difficulties that have been leaking out as well, including things like enemy character models not actually taking the damaging hits, as in just standing there A-posing whilst they're getting whacked over the head with a katana, and people generally just nitpicking everything that comes out about it. Like this, for example. So, here we have a stack of watermelons, which I'm pretty sure weren't introduced to Japan at this point in history, but black main protagonist, you gotta have the watermelons. Now, to be fair, I may be incorrect on this, but I would not expect watermelons to be, necessarily easily accessible at this time in the Japanese history, but hey, maybe I'm wrong. What I do know, however, is that watermelons and cherry trees don't bloom at the same time. That I know for absolute certain. Furthermore, I also know that a matchlock does not actually pass through the back of a helmet. That too is something I'm absolutely sure about. And this entire thread, just nothing but people yelling at the person who uploaded, who has had the remarkable durability to go through every single post, Control-Cing and Control-Ving, go crying. To the point where people start... help me. At this point, I'm kind of beginning to revise my previous estimate that Assassin's Creed Shadows might do well regardless of any, actual culture war backlash, because it is still a major gaming entity. It might have a large enough pre-installed user base, in essence, that are just buying the new Assassin's Creed game without really worrying about any of the nonsense around it or reviews or anything. They're simply long-term fans of the series, to still carry it over the finish line. But, seeing the sheer, overwhelmingly negative reception to even the smallest thing, and to be fair, this is just some guy who posts a screenshot and it gets brigaded by 2.3 million people. Yeah, I'm not so sure anymore. Not to mention, again, just the lack of a polish, really? Really? Nobody thought to check for this, did they? And I mean, it's sort of an innocent mistake in a way, but then you remember most of the Japanese helmets are probably going to have that neck guard area. And if they're not, they're going to be the, oh god, what were those silly things called again? The peasant hats? I don't remember now. All that, in which the musket would still be clipping into it. Like, just tie it across his back then, or something, right? Instead of having it sticking up there through the character model's helmet at all time. Hell, I'm even excited for the fact that there is a gun. The Tanegashimas, I believe they called them, matchlocked rifles, imported in relatively significant quantities because the local warlords quickly realized that, hey, this is a weapon we can shove into the hands of the most brain-damaged of peasants, and they can kill the most highly trained samurai with a single bullet. Yeah, pretty useful. In fact, it was largely the weapon that conquered Japan later on, but we are deviating somewhat from the point here, aren't we? And again, also, people nitpicking over the watermelons and the cherry blossoms and all this. And the worst part is, you know, the Ubisoft people didn't think about any of this shit. They were probably too occupied with making sure to force in a character who isn't an assassin into the Assassin's Creed game to worry about anything like, I was about to say rifle there, I would have been shamed for eternity, smoothbore musket sticking through the backs of helmets, or watermelons appearing in Japan the same time as the cherry blossoms and so on. And this too then indicates that it's not going to be a very good game, because if the developers were mainly focused in on the DEI nonsense, then the rest surrounding it, the combat system, the story, the minor details and the touches, are all likely to be severely lacking, because they simply didn't get enough time, enough attention, and enough passion to actually become good. It is one of those X factors that has always been a thing in gaming, that we've always been able to identify. Even when a game is occasionally mechanically janky, like the Elder Scrolls games, for example, Skyrim getting launched into the skybox by the Giant and so on, even when they have bugs and issues like that, it doesn't matter, because the overall impression is one of a passionately produced project, or something you can get lost in, or something you feel charitable towards. See, this is one of those little tricks of the mind, yet again, that you basically can't get around. This is the reason why a negative PR is absolutely a thing, particularly when it comes to gaming, which, at the end of the day, is a luxury hobby. It's still like $60, $70. That's not an insignificant amount of money whatsoever, particularly not in a market that has so many games. Like, you don't have to buy Assassin's Creed Shadows. There's another 5,000 titles being released that month alone. You have plenty of options to keep yourself entertained. And in that environment, when you get a negative impression in your brain, you will then immediately begin to search for reasons to enforce that negativity, to build it up, to find reasons and rationale for why you feel that way. Suddenly, you're spotting the watermelons. Suddenly, you're spotting the rifles sticking through the helmet. Suddenly, you're spotting the cherry blossoms. You're spotting all of those little things that normally, otherwise, you might actually ignore, right? But as you are already negatively inclined towards the game, you are not going to give it the benefit of charitability. Same reason why games that might actually be buggy still do well and become beloved entities, because they are given the benefit of that charitability. And once that trust is lost, there is virtually no regaining it other than appealing to the opposite side of the spectrum again. And what's more, if I was in charge at Ubisoft, what I would do is I would make up a list of every person who hates my game, and I would send them a free goddamn copy. Every YouTuber, every Twitch person who hates this shit, I would send them the copy and say, hey, here you go, here's a copy of Assassin's Creed Shadows. It's been a rough development. Make it sound a little bit like you're regretting it. Do the Peter Molyneux, basically, like, yeah, I promised a lot, but I didn't really deliver, but next time, I promise. You would be amazed at how much goodwill something as simple as that will get you. Hell, Molyneux made a career out of it. And definitely, if you survive Ubisoft to make another project, do that. Look up the master himself, Molyneux, and just copy that. Oh yeah, Assassin's Creed, no, it was shit. It was absolute garbage, infested by DEI. Oh, you would not believe the tales we have of the woke middle management trash. Oh, it was terrible. But the next game will be none of that, and then show some bouncing titties. Voila, you've quadrupled your sales in a 5 minutes interview segment. It really isn't difficult, and if you even manage to deliver a good product on top of it, which now that you're no longer burdened by the constant weight and restraints of having to worry about the skin color of everyone involved, you might even manage to make a good game out of it. Just an idea, in case you were wondering, Ubisoft, and again, Silent Hunter, bring it back. Basically, just make it like Nazi exploitation, alright? Have Ilsa the she-wolf on the SS on my crew wearing a deep-cut top, alright? There you go. All your economic problems have been solved. Until next time, I have been Arch, the Guru, and I'll see you all again soon. Have a good day.